Alright guys, we are out here at the Greenway this morning, gonna do a little fartlek style workout. So I don't actually need another workout this week because I've been following this Jack Daniels 12-week final plan, which has 2 workouts only. It's a long run on the weekend and then some sort of a threshold or interval session during the week, and I already knocked that out, which is super nice. But I want to get a little bonus work in today, so I'm gonna do a fartlek style workout, which is Swedish for speed play. And now today I'm gonna try to work some marathon pace in, because one of the things I want to do is test out how these rebels are gonna do at marathon pace with some longer miles in. So far with these, I've done an 8-mile run with strides. Yesterday I did a 20-mile double day, so in the morning we were also out at this Greenway here getting in some nice trail miles, some light trail for 12 and a nice aerobic effort, and then in the afternoon I did a stroller mile run. So this morning we're gonna test how these guys do against one of the other shoes that I was testing this year, which is the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. Now these two guys here are probably as far opposite as you could go on the speed training shoe segment in 2024. So these Rebels are going to be lightweight, low stack, more of a traditional style foam in here. Yes, there is PIBA blended into the EVA, but so far it's felt like just a little bit of a softer traditional EVA foam, whereas this guy is higher stack. You got the nylon plate in there, and it's 100% of this true PIBA midsole. This is also a little bit of a heavier shoe, more built up. Everything about it is just a little bit more robust than we see in this Rebel. This Rebel feels pretty minimal. So what I'm thinking for this workout this morning is gonna be doing a nice warm up in these Rebels here. So probably 6 miles, knock that out, and then go straight into the first set of marathon pace. And I don't want this to be too hard. Like I said, I already got in my first workout of the week that I needed to do. I have my long run on Sunday. So I'm gonna keep these at about 800 meters. And I really wanna be able to work some pace, feel out how marathon effort feels without taxing the body too much. So I'm thinking I'll get in 4 to 6 miles total at marathon pace. So 800 meters, about probably 4 times each across these shoes. So I'll do 8x400 in these Rebels here, maybe 2 to 3 minutes of jogging in between just to let my body recover. I don't want to be going out too hard and just redlining. And then I'll switch into the Speed 4s. We'll do another 4 sets in those. And then I did bring a bonus shoe. Let's just say some of you guys think this shoe is the greatest shoe of all time, so we can see how one of the other top speed training shoes of the 2020s, this is a dead stock shoe, it's a deep cut, does against 2 of the top newcomers this year. All right guys, I don't want to spend too much time yapping today. We got to be efficient with it, so let's get into this warm up. Alright guys, just finished the first set. Now these things were great. They really came alive, and it's uncanny. Around that 29 to 30 mile mark in them. So I already have 28 miles in them, and about 1 mile into the warm up, they felt so peppy and poppy this morning. And the foam feels like it's softening up. I mean, it's getting a little bit more flexible here, and it seems like the PIBA content in this guy is shining through a little bit more 30 miles in. It's really starting to break in. So I think this is a shoe where some break-in is required. Versus this guy here, this just felt great right out of the box. So we will see how it is to transition from the Rebel to the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, because this is just a much heavier shoe, the Speed 3 is, and I can feel it right as I put it on. Immediately, no ground contact. I don't feel like my foot is one with the shoe, and that's the thing with the Rebel, it really feels like it's an extension of my foot, which is why the shoe like that really helps build foot strength. But yeah man, those Rebels felt awesome. I was cruising along this morning. I took the warm-up a little bit hot. I think I took the warm-up at around a 7 flat pace. And I don't know, the high mileage day yesterday with the 20 miler, sometimes I need a day like that to get me right. And then I took the reps, I think around a 6:10 pace. My goal is to just not feel like I'm pressing too hard, because that's not the goal of today. It's not to go deep in the pain cave. This is not a pain cave workout. This is a turnover workout. And so with that, what I mean is I just want to feel a little bit of that speed, a little bit of what it's like to feel out the race day pace. And it's not typical that I would do a fartlek marathon pace workout, because with marathon pace, you really want to be doing a more extended tempo style or continuous style workout to get a feel of what that pace is like over a longer period, to practice fueling, etc. But today it's really about having fun, getting some turnover in, and experimenting with these shoes. So Rebel V4 starting to win me over. Let's see how these next reps are in the speed. It's a little bit heavier, a little bit stiffer, man. Gloves are going away too. All right, speed 4 time, let's do this. Just finished the set in the speed 4s, and initially these felt so awkward and clunky compared to the Rebels. They're just a completely different beast with this high stack that we see here, and that's going to be the key difference between the Rebel. The Rebels do not feel like they give you a lot of speed assistance because of the lower stack, and these, when picking up the pace, and I know they weren't my favorite shoe when I was highlighting them a week or two ago, but these felt like they gave you a little bit more speed assistance because of what we're going to see here with this thicker stack of Power and PB. It really is a high energy return foam still, even though it is a little bit, I don't know, it feels dense and just a little bit heavy. And then with the plastic plate, I could definitely feel the help from that plate, even though it is more flexible than a carbon plated shoe. But with this guy here, it doesn't feel like it's great at anything. It feels like it's good at a lot of things, but it doesn't really shine at any one thing. And you heard me talking about this the other day, ikigai or purpose. What is that one thing that a shoe was designed by really smart RISD grads to do? And for this thing, I just don't know. It's a do-it-all shoe, but it's a 6 out of 10 at a lot of things, which is a great thing if you want to be an entrepreneur, but not a great thing if you're a running shoe. I want my running shoes to be great at one thing, just the best at one thing. Or if you're going to be an all-around shoe like this, should be a little bit more comfortable and not as awkward. So this is definitely not my top choice in the all-around shoe category. And when it comes to the speed, for a workout like this, I prefer the Rebel a little bit. Just a little bit lighter on foot. But this thing does take the burden off your legs, which if that's what you're looking for, it could be a good option, but I don't know, I'd rather just go with my carbon fiber plated race day shoe if that's what I'm looking for. All right, guys, it is now time for the mystery shoe. So, speed 4s are done. Let's take a look what we have in here. Ta-da! Saucony Endorphin Speed 2. Now, we highlighted this one a few weeks ago on the channel when I was doing the big Speed 4 highlight, and this thing just kept coming up as your all-time favorite shoe. So I went on Amazon and I bought it, and here we go. So this is gonna be our first true workout in the Speed 2. And my goal is to see how it performs, because this is a, I don't know, 2 or 3 year old shoe at this point. And the Rebel V4 is brand new, the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 is brand new. So how does this guy, a tried and true favorite, compare against both of those? And we are gonna put the Rebels back on for a little cool down, so I'll be able to do a back-to-back in these two. But straight away, these feel a little bit more natural on foot. Something about the Speed 4s is just awkward. And putting these on right after just feels a little bit better. It feels a little bit more like a normal shoe to me. Listen to those birds, man. Nature's soundtrack. You don't need Griselda when you have that. Hey, yo! I just let the birds talk for me. All right, guys, last set here. Let's do this. Alright guys, set in the Speed 2 is done. Now we gotta change into these Rebels for the cool down. Then I can give you my full thoughts on this workout. and how all these shoes performed, and mainly how the Rebel did versus the Speed 4. Speed 2. You guys are obsessed with this thing. It certainly is a fun shoe, and it's definitely more fun than the Speed 4. But whether it's the best shoe of all time, especially compared to some of the new things we got on the market, like this Rebel here, I'm just not sure. One thing I did want to point out about the Rebel versus the Endorphin Speed 4 is that it has a much wider base, and because it is lower to the stack, it generally just feels like a more natural, wider shoe. I also think we're seeing the foam flare out a bit more. So that's one of the things with the upper here, and I know I initially wasn't quite sold on it, but it does really feel like my foot is sitting down inside of the shoe, which is a really cool feeling. It's like I'm one with the shoe. That's what keeps coming to mind with this thing. And I know the football metaphor was kind of silly, but I was talking about how it's like a pigskin. But if you think about the way a football is put together, you have the leather panels that are sewn together, then you got the air inside. And with these shoes, it really does feel like my foot is the air inside of the football. Yeah, this might, I don't know if it's going to be the contender. The Rebel here is probably not going to be one of the best or the best speed training shoe in general. But in terms of a natural feeling speed training shoe and a lower stack down to the ground, it's a nice option. Especially thinking about the DNA of the old one, a lot of that is carried through here. And with this foam softening it up a little bit at, I don't know, about 30 miles, like I said, it has a nice feel to it. Alright guys, I'm going to get this warm up in, and then we'll be back in a jiff to chat through all the shoes. Alright guys, so as you could probably tell, today really won me over with the Rebel V4. This foam here started to soften up, and if you've been watching my coverage over the past few days, I said it felt like an Audi Zero SL, I said it felt like more of a traditional EVA shoe, and something about the foam with the PIBA EVA blend just wasn't hitting for me over those first few days. But today I felt like that PIBA content really started to shine through, and right around that 30-mile mark, which is where most traditional EVA shoes break in, anywhere from 30 to 70 is really that sweet spot. Brooks Ghost Max was around 40 miles. The Saucony Endorphin Shift 3, that was around 30 to 40 miles. The Adidas Audi Zero SL with that firmer light strike on the bottom, that actually took about 50 miles to break in. But this guy took exactly 30 miles, and now the PIBA content really is shining through. Now, it's not going to be the most soft cushion shoe in the world. That's what the fresh foam is for. This fuel cell is a little bit of a lighter weight, faster compound. But when I first got out there into that warm-up and hitting sub 7 or 7 flat paces, that steady zone, that's where the shoe came alive. It felt amazing. It was like a knife blade just cutting through the wind. It felt so fast, like, I don't know, a speedboat out there in the Miami Biscayne Bay just zipping around. It was a really nice shoe to do that type of work. And because I was feeling so good, I took the warm-up a little bit hotter than I would have normally. Typically, I'll warm up anywhere from 7:30 to 7:50. Today, I was down near 7:15, 7 flat paces, but I felt good, and I think having a higher mileage day yesterday, hitting 20 miles, actually helped a little bit. So you can see here, we're now fully creased up in the fuel cell. We got all these beautiful creases through here, which means that as an EVA foam, this thing is ready to rock and roll. And today was the first day where I really fell in love with this shoe. Now, I do like having a bit of a simpler shoe in my rotation, but with that, it's not going to have as much impact absorption. And especially if you're going into marathon training, you might want a little more protection than this offers. So that's why I'm not saying it's the best shoe for everybody. And I think a lot of you out there might actually prefer what we're getting from the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4, even though it wasn't my favorite shoe. Now, the key difference between these two is that the Speed 4 is much more built up. It's much heavier out there. I think on paper, the Rebel V4 came in around the 7-ounce range for me, whereas the Speed 4 was in the 9-ounce range. So it is a huge difference. And immediately lacing them up and putting them on foot, the Rebel V4 feels much lower to the ground. And the Speed 4, you can really feel this chunkier heel out there in the back. And even just holding them, the Speed 4 feels a lot more bottom heavy. It doesn't feel like one cohesive shoe, which is something I really appreciate about the V4. It just feels like an extension of my foot here. Now, the Rebel is also a little bit wider and more forgiving with the upper. As soon as I laced up the Speed 4 here, it just felt super narrow, and awkward, clunky, not fast. But as I warmed up into those reps, that's where it started to shine, because it felt like I didn't need to put as much into the shoe to hold that around, I think, 6:10 pace for most of those reps. So Rebel did feel fast around 7, but as I was working down into those marathon pace reps, I was definitely pushing a little bit more in the Rebel here, whereas the Speed 4 definitely gave me more assistance with the rocker. Rebel is also a rocker shoe, which is nice because the V3 of this was not very rockered at all, so I do like that they modernized the shoe a little bit with the geometry down on the bottom. So for shorter and faster distances, the Rebel is really going to shine. That's what this is designed to do. It's not designed to chew through a lot of mileage, even though that's what I'm using it for, because I do want to challenge myself and help rebuild some of this lower leg strength. The Speed 4 is really going to be a much more protective option, and I could even just feel it out there at the end of those reps. Even though I only did 8 miles in the Rebel today, I did 20 total miles yesterday, and 12 miles is the longest I've taken this continuously so far. I could feel at the end of some of those miles there like I wasn't getting the most protection, especially when I went and did my cool down in the shoe after running in the Speed 4 and Speed 2. It didn't feel as protective, which wasn't a bad thing. I like feeling more connected to the ground, which is what you're going to get out of the Rebel here. So while this only has a plastic plate and not a carbon fiber plate, it was certainly noticeable compared to the Rebel here, because this feels so much more minimal compared to a lot of the shoes that I've been running in. Max stack shoes, plated shoes, carbon fiber racers. Putting on the Speed 4 is right back into that category of ultimate protection, not necessarily ultimate comfort. And I think in terms of step-in feel, the Rebel might be a little bit more comfortable. It's just going out there for longer miles. That's where the Speed 4 is going to take it. In general, the Speed 4 is going to be a much better option for longer runs. I took this up to 22 miles, and while it wasn't my favorite, I felt like the PIBA in here starts to feel a little bit squishy and mushy and not enough protection for me. It's going to offer, of course, way more protection for longer miles than the Rebel here. I did take the Rebel V3 to 16 miles. I'm not sure how this guy's going to do. We'll have to see if I end up taking it for a long run. Now, in terms of durability, we'll have to see. I'm not too bullish about the durability here on the Rebel. You can see after 30 or 40 miles so far, we're already getting some wear on the foam, my highest wear areas. Rubber is also starting to wear through a little bit. I do think I can take this up to 200, 250 miles easily. I'm not sure how it's going to be doing at that 300 mile mark, but because it has the EVA in here, which is known a little bit more for durability, maybe we'll get a good shot. Now, in terms of this guy here, your old favorite Saucony Endorphin Speed 2. I preferred this most certainly to the Speed 4. It felt lighter. I felt like I was getting more of a roll through the shoe. If you look at the bottoms here, the Speed 4 is a little bit wider back here, and the heel is also just chunkier. So the Speed 2 feels much more directed with the Speed. And when I say directed, when I'm landing, it just feels like I'm going straight through the platform, versus the Speed 4. It seems like somewhere around here, my energy is getting lost because of so much chunk in the heel. It can almost act as a braking force and not roll me through. So Speed 2 was lighter on foot, faster. It felt a little bit more of that pop from the plate through the top of the platform here. I'm not sure if I felt like it had as much protection as the Speed 4. So that might be where this thing won today. It definitely did the best job protecting my legs. While it's not going to be the fastest shoe, that's what it is going to offer versus a lower stack shoe like the Rebel, or a faster, more aggressive shoe like the Speed 2, which is a little bit harsh. So Speed 4, definitely not harsh at all, more protective, although it is stiff and clunky. Now, in terms of these two guys compared, the Rebel V4 is definitely more minimal feeling than the Speed 2 here. Even though the Speed 2 does feel like a little bit lower stack, more minimal lightweight against the Speed 4, if we're looking at the Rebel V4, this is still a really minimalist shoe compared to any of the mainstream speed options over the past few years, maybe except for the Convara, the Topo Cyclone, and older generations of the Rebel itself. And I really like that. Even for today, where I was putting 10 miles into the shoe, it was still enough protection, and that's what you're going to get from the additional millimeters of foam that we're seeing in the Rebel V4 here versus the Rebel V3, which was a 27.5 millimeter stack in the heel, which it's almost impossible to find anything below 30 millimeters in the heel today, and they have knocked this guy up to 30 millimeters. But one really unique thing with the Rebel V4 that I think is going to make it shine and stand out for a lot of folks out there is the width of the platform. Now, this was not immediately noticeable to me when I took it out of the box, and even when I did the first few runs, but doing it today back to back with the Speed 4 and the Speed 2 made me realize that with a little bit of a lower to the ground feeling plus this wider platform, it's a really unique sensation where there's tons of stability, but it's still fast. And if you look at the widths of these heels here, the Rebel absolutely slaughters the Speed 4 here. Same thing with the forefoot, but because it's lower to the ground, I still did feel very directed through the platform as I was landing. I didn't feel like I was losing any energy. So I think if you are a wide-footed runner, this is going to be a really nice speed option for you if you want something that's a little bit lower stack, not as built up and protective and clunky as some of these plated trainers that we see out there. So this guy was the clear winner for me today. I love how it looks. I loved how it felt on foot. The foam is clearly breaking in and doing its thing. I'm excited to get some more miles in it because I think the character of this might even evolve a little bit more. But so far, it's a fast, lightweight shoe. Not the most protective, not the bounciest. You got to put some work into it to get that speed back. But a really nice, simple, no frill shoe to run in, and I love that one of the biggest running brands on the market is still offering a simple no frill shoe, because that's not something we see in the Nike lineup. Adidas kind of has it with the Adios. It'll be interesting to see what comes with the Adios 9. Saucony kind of has it in the Convara, but they've gone with the traditional EVA foam. I would love to see them do what New Balance has done with the Rebel here, maybe mix in some Piba content into that shoe. But as of now, this is going to be one of the top lightweight minimal options that can be used as a low stack daily trainer for some runners who don't need the most protection out there and who aren't hitting super high mileage weeks. So all right guys, that is all I have for you today. Let me know all of your questions about the Rebel V4 below. Also let me know if you have any questions about my experience in the Speed 2 or the Speed 4. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video.